Almost there, folks. Get ready. Get ready.
pastor charged with preying on minors he was guardian of. Per the Root, local reports, sexual abuse scandal has rocked the town of Tell City, Indiana.
I can't believe it. I mean, can a woman catch a break? I mean, I'm a brother, and I'm just saying this. This seems like you can't even go to a pastor now.
After 48-year-old former Community Christian Church pastor Errol Wright was arrested earlier this month for alleged sexual misconduct with a minor and child seduction.
And here's the funny thing is when you think about it, let me go online. Let me pop in here right now. Okay. You know what's the funny thing is that for some reason, this is what the manosphere promotes. They promote, they promote, they try to make it vague, but let's face it, they promote doing it with minors. It's historically what happens. It's funny because everybody says, "Oh yeah, baby mama, baby mama." Well, did you know that baby mama had a kid when she was a child because of your fellow brethren who were at very many times twice their age of the young lady decided that 14, 13, 12 was old enough. Let's hear what he has to say. Listen what the old pastor has to say. Pastor.
Per News 14, Wright is accused of sexually abusing a child who says he served as her legal guardian while she was a teenager. Wright was released on a nearly $48,000 bond, scheduled to be back in court April 3rd. That is not enough money.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to catch a dusty. We are here to catch a dusty. By the way, this is from Indisputable with Dr. Lionel Richie. No, not Lionel. Rashad Richie. Let's get this going. Let's go.
Her sister told News 14 that she encouraged her to come forward. Thank you. But that it was difficult to admit what was happening to her. All this time, she didn't want to admit that it was happening and it was bad. The sister told News 14 she was ashamed. She thought if she admitted the bad parts, that it would define her. The Root. That's what abusers do.
Yep, that's what happens. Like to kick out some shout outs in the house. We got VM in the house. Legs for Life is in the house. Why is Seeking Knowledge in the house? Let's get this party going. It's going to be a good one.
That's what they do. The Community Christian Church issued a statement to News 14. We have felt the same shock and hurt as the community concerning the recent incident involving our previous pastor. We neglected to release a statement until now because his family is heavily involved.
Here's the thing is that this pastor is just one example because basically the bottom line is this. This has been going on in our community for a long time where we gave people like Diddy, like Jay-Z, like Chris Brown, like other men and all of those men like them a pass. And this is what we're left with. This is what we're left with. Run, yeah, exactly. Run from the dust. It is a must to run from the dust. Let's break it down some more. I got some more for you. Here we go.
A warning tonight from law enforcement as 2 Bay Area men are accused of courting underage teenage girls online, helping them run away from home, and then persuading them to have sex. Citrus County.
Whoa. That's crazy. I mean, let me tell you. This is let's keep listening.
Deputies say the men would even pick up the girls at their parents' homes in the middle of the night, and one of those suspects is now opening up to ABC Action News reporter Jacqueline Ingles.
Uh-oh.
I'm here at the Citrus County Sheriff's Office where detectives on these cases tell me while they're similar, they're unrelated. But tonight, one of the suspects say these investigators have it all wrong. He's the real victim.
I don't go around trying to sleep with little girls. That's not what I do.
Oh, let me kick this up a little bit.
Standing with his mom by his side, Jesse Laramie Jr. can't help but quiver.
Do you think that I deserve to be a sex offender for the rest of my life and have to register for the rest of my life because I had sex with a 15-year-old girl that lied to me and wanted to have sex?
She lied to me. Why do they keep using that excuse? The reason why you're going to be in that classification, fella, is this. Basically, you did not take the precautions of checking out to make sure. Number one, you shouldn't be having casual sex. And obviously you did, because if you didn't, this is a good example of what casual sex gets men into trouble with. Because if it wasn't casual and you're going out with this person on multiple days, sooner or later, you're going to figure out this person's not of age. You're either going to meet their mom or something like that, or somebody's going to tell you, oh, we saw you out with blah, blah. Did you know she is blah, blah? So it's hard to, it's funny that he's coming out with the victim thing. There's a lot of people who use that victim. They're a victim of the victiming. Let's keep it going.
Do you guys honestly think I should be a sex offender for the rest of my life?
Laramie Jr. claims the girl told him she was 18
It's RV in the house.
when they talked over Facebook.
Knowledge of age is not a defense.
Deputies say the 21-year-old
I told you.
courted, dated, and had sex multiple times with the teen here at his mother's Homosassa home, even helping the teen run away from home last month. And on one occasion,
What? Hey,
picking her up from school, having sex with her, then dropping her back off in time so the teen could catch the school bus home. And despite his insistence that he's the
wait a minute. If you're picking up somebody from school, how in the world do you not know they are underage? That's crazy.
victim here, this is not the first time Laramie Jr. has found himself in this position. In fact,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Catch a Dusty, and it looks like one dust was caught.
when this happened, he was out on bond for a similar crime involving a different underage girl. He met
Wait a minute, but remember, he's the victim, but he's already done it a couple times. Wow, it's like, oh man, am I still low? Is my volume up? If you can hear me loud enough, put one in the chat. Let me check and make sure I'm all good here. Miss RV says I'm a little bit low. If you can hear me, let me know in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if my volume's cool, 2 if I'm not. I'm gonna pump up the volume here a little bit more, but I thought I was there. Let me see. Here we go.
online. Deputies arrested 23-year-old Mason Davis for a very similar crime just last week.
Hi, I'm sorry. I was looking for Mason Davis.
No thanks.
No thanks.
Davis is accused of helping a 15-year-old girl run away, bringing her here to his mother's Dunellen home and having sex with her multiple times.
It's a big deal with maturity and a 23-year-old taking advantage of a young person looking for just some attention.
Laramie's
Wow.
mom feels differently.
I think it's time for us to start looking at the girls. You should see some.
Ooh, oh my God. Did you hear what she just said? It's not uncommon. Man, that's a super mammy if you ever seen one. Shoot, she literally is blaming a little girl for what her adult son did irresponsibly. Why Seeking Knowledge breaks it down like this. First of all, she says, we are just objects to them to use and discard. They have no feelings except for themselves when they get caught. Bars. And then we have this. And he didn't know to clean himself up. After his last charge, he wanted to sleep with those little girls. Yeah. He's the epitome of a Predo. He's the epitome of a Predo. He's doing exactly what a Predo how a Predo thinks and what a Predo does. Blames other people, does not make himself a better person, and then continues to do what he's not supposed to do. You would think that if after he did it before and got charged, okay, he would say, let me clean up my act, be a better person. and make sure I steer clear of little girls. But he couldn't do it.
The pictures. I mean, wow.
In Citrus County, Jacqueline Inglace, ABC Action News.
That's all you have to say at the end. Let me play what that lady is saying again. We got to see. This is some. Here we go.
Differently.
I think it's time for us to start looking at the girls. You should see some of the pictures. I mean, wow.
In Citrus County, Jacqueline Inglace, ABC Action News.
That's all he had to say. She didn't even have to argue with what that lady said. It was so messed up, you know. But look, we got more Dusties for you. More dust.
A 46-year-old track and field coach is behind bars tonight.
Oh shit. That's not good. Let me go with this volume right here.
Detectives say he had sex with an underage student he was training. News 6 reporter Nadine Yanis has been looking into the details of the arrest of Harold Wise. Nadine, you found out he's volunteered at a local high school, right?
I did, Matt, but his arrest
report
doesn't say how Wise met his victim, but it does say that he's been a track and field coach for 2 years now, for at least 2 years now. I did learn that he's well known in this community, even at some of the local high schools. I learned today that he's even spent time advising coaches at Jones High School right here in Orlando.
There was one sheriff's deputy parked in front of our house, and then there was another one parked after their driveway.
Troy Mueller and Frank Gould didn't know why police were at their neighbor Harold Wise's house last week. That was until I told them today detectives were there to serve a search warrant. After detectives say 46-year-old Wise was arrested on several felony charges for having sex with a minor.
Kind of
Man. See?
Speechless at the same time, you know.
Oh my, how could it happen so close and not even see it?
According to this arrest affidavit, the girl came forward in December, telling detectives they met 2 years ago when Wise became her track and field coach. Their relationship turning sexual in October. It lasted for about 2 months, according to the report. However, the arrest report doesn't say if she met Wise through private coaching lessons or through an official program or a school.
Wow, look at his blood red eyes. Damn.
But News 6 did confirm Wise spent time at Jones High School in Orlando last year, more on an unofficial basis where he would help advise the coaches on the boys' track team, saying in a statement, quote, he was not a registered volunteer, nor did he work one-on-one with students. He would speak with coaches about ways to improve a student athlete's performance, end quote. And so today I spent most of the day trying to figure out where.
Why did I play this? I played this because this is one of the styles and ways that Predos get into the community and get into situations like this, where they will pose as pastors, pastas, coaches, teachers, and you see the results. Here we go.
Wise coaches track and field. I reached out to Osceola County Schools to see if they knew him. A spokesperson told me that he has never been an employee with Osceola County Schools or a volunteer or coach for that matter. But she did say that he was well known because he was using some of the high school's track and field.
This is a very doggone good point that Miss RV brings up. It's that whole thing about she's fast. The little girl is fast. And that's why these guys couldn't resist the little girl. Though these men are supposed to be more mature than the young ladies and all this other stuff. And there's men, men are supposed to be superior. There's a theory out there saying that crap. But hey, that's what they believe. But, oh, yeah, she was fast. And that's why I'm so weak that I gave up. You see what I'm saying? They use that fast crap so much. I've heard that since I was a kid. Oh, she's fast. Oh, she's fast. And it's just a ridiculous, disgusting, sad defense. VM says, I ran track and played basketball and volleyball. So glad I never experienced that. Bars.
Without permission, and the athletic director at Osceola High School had to kick him off several times. Wise is now in jail here at George County.
Wait, what did he
Fields
do?
Without permission, or volunteer or coach for that matter. But she did say that he was well known because he was using some of the high school's track and fields without permission, and the athletic director at Osceola High School had to kick him off several times.
Damn.
Wise is now in jail here at the Orange County Jail, and he is here on no bond. Matt.
Nadine Giannis live for us.
Oh,
tonight.
yeah. No bond. No bond. Wow, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So they must, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, bonds are cheap. We're going to be going on over that on Bond Court, but here's another guy. Check this
A
out.
Naples man charged with having sex with a girl between the age of 12 and 15. 22-year-old Ortavius Robinson facing charges of lewd and lascivious battery after the father of the victim reportedly found Robinson naked in his daughter's bedroom back on January 4th. The suspect managing to escape, but the girl told investigators the man was Robinson and that they met online, and she reportedly invited the guy into the home. Collier County Sheriff's deputy.
See, the thing is this, man, the dust gets deeper. So what men are using is the excuse that it was the little girl's fault. He should have never, when that girl said come over, he should have said no. I guarantee you that's going to be his defense. Oh, she said it was okay. Man, let's see. Let me play this over again. Let me see what's going on here.
A Naples man charged with having sex with a girl between the age of 12 and 15. 22-year-old Ortavius Robinson facing charges of lewd and lascivious battery after the father of the victim reportedly found Robinson naked in his daughter's bedroom back on January.
Naked in his, I mean, think about it. He's so much of a loser, he didn't even have his own place. He has to go over to this little girl's home. That's
January 4th. The suspect managing to escape, but the girl told investigators the man was Robinson and that they met online, and she reportedly invited the guy into the home. Collier County Sheriff's deputies found Robinson at his home and arrested him there.
Well, it's been 2 weeks
wow, just more and more. Let's get into Diddy.
since the raids at Diddy's homes in Miami and LA. And even though there hasn't been a lot of new information released to the public, there's still been movement behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. All right. Fox 5's Lisa Evers spoke with a former federal prosecutor and joins us now with a closer look at where the investigation likely stands today. Lisa.
Well, Stephen, Natasha,
Let's find out whether Diddy's going to be charged or not. Let's go into this. Let's break it down.
there's definitely movement, but not the type to make headlines. It's been just over 2 weeks since a federal criminal investigation into sex trafficking involving Sean Diddy Combs was confirmed. Now, he's denied all the allegations, and so far there have been no arrests. Everything does seem quiet, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes as this investigation moves forward. Diddy raps, "I'm a win because I'm too smart for these cats," as he outruns police in a recent Instagram post of his 1997 hit song Victory. His current reality is looking very different, though. Sources tell me some who
That's a good way of letting him know that this didn't his track didn't age well at all.
have been close to Diddy are hiring lawyers to deal with inquiries from federal investigators. There's likely much more going on than meets the eye, says former federal prosecutor Nadia Shahada.
From my experience, I suspect they are interviewing a number of people at the moment, casting a wide net. That would include potential victims, employees, members of Mr. Combs's entourage, basically anyone who may have relevant information.
Law enforcement sources tell me the raids of Combs' homes in Los Angeles and Miami, which were the result of court-authorized search warrants, yielded a variety of evidence.
They're also reviewing the digital evidence recovered during the search warrants. They're probably issuing subpoenas, and they may be conducting other types of
Oh
searches.
man, what's going on here? Trying to keep a brother down. You know, so what if he assaulted about at least 20 women? At least. Oh, he keep him down just because his son did the same stuff. Like father, like son. It's crazy to me. And the same thing happens. I guarantee you the same thing's going to happen with Ernesto. I bet his son has done some dust too. You know, it's like, and see how they got this far. How Diddy was able to do it and get this far? Because he's been a criminal all his life, really, in my opinion. Okay, is those near him and those around him gave him a pass. They knew, they've seen him do stuff because they've said so. They've said so. Well, now they finally start to come out. But before they weren't coming out, were they? That's the weird thing. And see, that's the problem is when you established an environment of abuse, you know, you can't you use and still want to be respected, then you're going to be frustrated. And that's what's going on with a lot of men in our society. They're not realizing they're becoming the problem. When you allow men, you don't necessarily have to be the one doing this stuff, but if you allow people to commit crimes and to harass and assault people, then basically you're part of the problem.
That wouldn't be in public view. Historical cell site information, emails, that sort of thing.
In order to successfully make sex trafficking charges, as Shahada did against R. Kelly in his federal case, certain types of proof are needed.
To the extent that any of the sexual conduct occurred on video, they would be looking for videos, photographs. They're also going to be looking to corroborate based on other people who may have been present for all or part of the criminal conduct. And they're also looking for communications, travel records, flight records.
Yeah, this is going to be all bad. This is going to be all bad. So, the thing is that you'd want to have a situation where at least the son turned out to be, not like his father, but no, his son is trash too. His son is trash too. That's the big problem.
Before Sean Diddy Combs was a business mogul and rap artist and producer, he was just a kid from Harlem.
It's really surreal. It's really overwhelming to come from New York.
We look at some of the things about Combs's childhood and past that he's revealed over the years. Thanks for joining me for Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy.
Yeah, now we're going to check and see why he turned out to be creepy. Let's break in. Let's see what happens here.
Sean Diddy Combs has been all over the news for the last couple of weeks, not for rap music or stories about his marketing ability and business prowess, but for raids on his homes in California and Florida tied to allegations of sex trafficking, which he has denied. We know Combs as Puff Daddy, Puffy, P. Diddy, and now Love.
You can really say hip hop is sex trafficking extraordinaire when you think about it. For the most part, of course, there are some conscious rap groups, but especially today, and even back then, when in the conception of hip hop, it was really about sex, and it was really about promiscuity, and that right there is that's a big enough bridge for trafficking right there.
Of the rapper and producer and the clothing line designer and business mogul. But what do we really know about him as a person and how he became who he is today? What shaped him? Let's go back to
Pimpology, mainly.
To the beginning. Sean John Combs was born on November 4th, 1969 in Harlem. His mom was Janice and his dad was Melvin. We'll have more on Melvin and Janice in a bit. We know that Janice eventually moved Combs and his sister to Mount Vernon, New York after Melvin died. She worked 3 jobs to put them through private school.
Damn. She put in that work. But in the manosphere, they want to blame the mothers, but they don't want to say anything about the fathers.
In a 2006 documentary, Sean Combs, Portrait in Black and White, Combs revealed a lot about his upbringing. Some of that could tell us a lot about who he is today. I want to bring in Sean Sotero. He's a music journalist who covers rap and hip hop to discuss Sean Combs's upbringing. So, Sean, thanks for coming on. I want to talk a little bit about something that Sean Combs brings up in this documentary. And he talks about the differences in which his grandmother treated him and his mother. And he tells this story about how he was sent out by his grandma to go get cigarettes. She would give him some money to go to the corner store. He got beat up one time, didn't come back the money was taken from him, I should say. He comes back without the money. And his mom was like, you go back and you get that money or you don't come back. And he left the house crying. His grandma would have let him stay at the house, but his mom
please. I'm sorry.
mom told him to get out there. And he used this quote that I thought was really interesting. He says, my mother, I guess, was raising me for the real world. She always told me if someone hits me to hit them back harder. And he talked about getting into this big fight with the guy, but getting the money back and going home. What does that tell us about how Sean Combs kind of developed? Hit him back harder if you get hit.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to draw conclusions from a single anecdote, right? But I think it tells us a lot about how he wants to be seen, right? Of all the things he could have potentially said.
His father. And he didn't really know his father. He describes the only thing he really remembers about his father, because his father died right as he was turning 3, was his dad throwing him up in the air. A lot of parents do. Another thing that he discussed was his father. And he didn't really know his father. He describes the only thing he really remembers about his father, because his father died right as he was turning 3.
Let me
Was
pause that for a minute. I want to find out how Sean Diddy's father died. How did Diddy's father die? Not dead. Wow. So Sean Diddy's okay. Melvin was shot dead while sitting in his car on Central Park West when Combs was 2 years old. Janice worked. Wow. Okay. Let's find out what he was about. Let's see. Okay, that doesn't say much there. Oh, come on, get out of my way. Allow ads on Nikki's. Why not? No. Nah, not that one. Okay. Frank Lucas talks about Diddy's father. Let's see about this.
I'm Ray Lucas. This is my dad, Frank Lucas. And shout out to Vlad TV. Thanks for setting up this interview.
Oh shit. The Vlad TV is. Okay, so it looks like whatever his father did, it might have got him killed. Who knows? Or deleted, I should say. That's unfortunate. Let's keep going. Okay, I want to fast forward past that. Let's see what we have here.
around with Frank Lucas. Frank Lucas was a big drug dealer in the area, and he knew his dad. I mean, Frank Lucas has been on YouTube talking about this, about knowing Melvin Combs. So how do you think maybe that influenced Sean
Let's go back on this. It's okay.
around with Frank Lucas? Frank Lucas was a big drug dealer in the area, and
Well, there you go. There you go.
he knew his dad. I mean, Frank Lucas has been on YouTube talking about this, about knowing Melvin Combs.
Oh, is that Frank Lucas from that Denzel Washington movie? I think it is.
So how do you think maybe that influenced Sean Combs?
Right. I mean, the Melvin Combs story is very interesting. I found something actually just the other day. It's a daily news story from February 19th.
Oh, thank you, Miss RV. So basically, I guess he was a snitch, and they found out.
1973, which is a few years, maybe a year and a half or so after he was killed. But it was around the time that this drug case in which he had been involved, in which, finally convictions happened in it. But this article says, well, look, this case, which was, breaking up a giant heroin ring, started when Melvin Combs's phone was wiretapped. And that was sort of
Oh,
the break
shit. Okay.
in this case. And the article doesn't out and out say this, but it seems to imply that Melvin Combs' death was somehow connected to that, right? And you hear rumors, people associated with Harlem in that time have said, well, look, people mistakenly thought Melvin Combs was an informant and that's why he was killed, right?
Wow. Wow.
It's sort of something that people who knew him back then or who knew the area back then have said. And so, it seems to me this article sort of trying to put two and two together and say maybe the reason they thought that was because there was in fact, this wiretap on his phone. So that part was true, but obviously wiretaps are not something one does voluntarily, right? So
Let me pause it right there. Miss RV breaking it down even more. Yes, Lucas was supposedly Bumpy Johnson's protege. The Harlem Drug Connect lineage. Wow. Probably could have been. If they put their energy into it, they probably could have been, Wall Street geniuses, but they chose otherwise. And yeah,
if this Daily News article is to be believed, I think that maybe sort of explains the story behind his death, possibly. But yeah, I think, Diddy definitely had the image of his father was very important to him. There was a speech he gave at Howard, maybe 2005 or so, something like that,
so
where
basically to me, it's like this. Obviously, his father was in the business too. I mean, nobody makes you or what would you call it? Bugs your phone if you're an upstanding guy just doing your, working a regular job. They did that because he was probably in the mix with these guys and in some way, shape, or form, and they felt like he did what he was doing. I wouldn't be shocked if Diddy's done something like that.
he recalls very vividly, I was in college at Howard, and the first thing I did was go to the library and look at the microfiche and look up the Amsterdam News and see this story about my father. Like, it is something that is very important to him, this image of his father as sort of the drug dealer, but not just the drug dealer, sort of the suave, powerful guy who hung out with, the biggest of the big gangsters, right? Frank Lucas, like you mentioned, who, of course, his story is now immortalized in movies, right? He's
Yeah.
about as famous as you can get in that sort of milieu. So I think that Diddy seemed to hold on to that image of his father, and it seemed very important to him that
So he wanted to hold on to his image of his father being a gangster. And he did.
his father was someone big and notable and important.
I want to take a moment to tell you about something really cool that will help you. This is how it under statistician, a creative elite, and they called it, I think, the Montessori Mafia. And so he was a member of this, according to the Wall Street Journal. So obviously, Janice Combs is somebody who wanted much better for her children than what they were getting in Harlem, and was willing to work really hard so that her children did have a better
So
life.
that's basically, I mean, really cut and dry. That's basically why the community, why it wasn't just because black men ran out on black women back in the day, but because black men, we were getting killed by each other a lot. During that drug time, a lot. I mean, it's already one of us is getting deleted every 1 hour now. Sometimes back then, who knows what.
Than what she had.
So I guess what I'm saying is this: is that it's a shame to see that when you see things happen bad to your father, usually you want to try to do something to make sure that that doesn't happen to you, and you don't follow in the same path. But basically, really, Diddy, he pretty much did. He was just lucky enough to have been getting away with it for a long time. But it's terrible. Weiss Knowledge says this: something to be proud of in the black man culture, that pimping, etc. Yep, exactly. Pimping, drugs, all the negative things. The problem the problem in our community is a lot of the men in our community embrace that.
Mount Vernon is very important to Puffy's story. Certainly Harlem is, and he, talks about and tries to represent Harlem a lot, but Mount Vernon is equally important. His first big break in the record business, he started promoting parties in college and things like that, but his first real break in the music industry began when he was an intern at Uptown Records, which is a job he initially got through a connection from Heavy D, who was, of course, from Mount Vernon, right? So there is a Mount Vernon connection.
Okay, they're just kind of historically going over more so of the history of Diddy. And basically the bottom line is this, is that he turned out to be a scumbag. Let me just get it out there. I mean, who knows? Not only that, but he took that lineage and he gave it to his sons. And now they pretty much probably did the same thing. That's why it's crazy. There is so much more that's going to come out, I guarantee you. Let's move forward with another Predo. Here we go.
Today, we have a serious update on a story we have been following.
Wait, I think we went through this guy. He was a guy who, let me skip through that one. Let me go with this last
What
one.
actual crimes could Sean Diddy Combs be charged with? Based on the allegations from the lawsuits and
Oh, this is a good point. Let's find out what he can be charged with.
updates in the raids of his homes, we are going to break down what potential federal
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a
charges the rapper and entertainment mogul could face. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. We're going to do something a little bit different.
Okay, let me go through here. Okay, let me see what they're.
Which we're going to discuss a little bit more in a minute. But we don't know what federal investigators are actually looking for. We don't know for sure Combs' connection to all this. And if
Nope, we don't. Let's go forward.
state lines, recruits, entices, harbors, transports, provides, obtains, advertises, maintains, patronizes, or solicits by any means a person for the purposes of commercial sex, or if the defendant benefits from this too. And commercial sex act is when you give something of value in exchange for a sex act, usually through force or threats or.
Okay, let's go back here. This is important right here.
A few statutes that could come into play here. We have 18 USC section 1591, sex trafficking of children or by force, fraud, or coercion. So this is when someone knowingly, meaning consciously, they understand what they're doing here. When someone knowingly, through interstate or foreign commerce, usually that means crossing state lines, recruits, entices, harbors, transports, provides, obtains, advertises, maintains, patronizes, or solicits by any means a person for the purposes of commercial sex, or if the defendant benefits from this too. And commercial sex act is when you give something of value in exchange for a sex act, usually through force or threats or fraud or coercion. And of course, this statute includes if the person being trafficked is a minor. Now, if the victim was under the age of 14 or a fraud, force, or coercion were used, the penalty is not less than 15 years in prison up to life. If the victim was 14 to 17, the penalty is 10 years to life. And if anybody obstructs or attempts to obstruct the enforcement of this law, they face up to 20 years in prison. And
wow, that's a bite.
Defendants who are convicted under this law, they're required to pay restitution to their victims as well. By the way, Jeffrey Epstein was charged with this crime before he died. Just keep that in mind. Now, if we assume that Cassandra Ventura...
So basically Diddy is the black Jeffrey Epstein's. What a prideful, role model he turned out to be.
Combs' ex, she had filed a lawsuit against Combs, settled with him the day after filing it, but she alleged some heinous acts, said that she was a victim of sexual abuse, physical abuse, really nasty things. But it's now being reported by TMZ that she is cooperating with federal authorities, that she has been working with them for several weeks, even before the raids on Combs' properties. So if she is one of the victims or alleged victims in this criminal case, then her allegations could constitute sex trafficking.
Wow. Okay.
We always wondered if she was cooperating, and if she is, that would be a monumental piece of evidence for the prosecution. And by the way, just generally speaking, we were always wondering who might be.
So why is it? Why do we see? The thing is Diddy is much bigger than just this case. I mean, I would say that at least 70% or 80% of the younger black men in society respected Diddy, saw him as a role model, saw him as a pillar of the community. And now look, we should be using this for a wake-up call, but I guarantee you the problem is it's too late.
Cooperating with the feds, whether the plaintiffs in the multiple lawsuits that Combs is facing were the witnesses that provided the feds with probable cause to get the search warrants for Diddy's properties. But yes, taking her allegations as true in her original complaint, what she alleges could constitute sex trafficking. In fact, she cites this statute in her lawsuit. The allegation is that Combs forced her to engage in sex acts across multiple jurisdictions while she was an artist signed with Bad Boy Records, that she was.
That is just terrible. She had some talent, but he exploited that. And that's the shame of it all. Everybody wants to know why some artists fade away. Here, you're seeing it right here. Exploitation.
Held captive to Combs's demands and desires that she actually wasn't even allowed to leave at one point. And that Combs's companies and affiliated businesses perpetuated this sex trafficking by Combs to keep him happy. And remember the allegations.
Told you. I told you. It's all about giving criminals a pass. Giving criminals a pass.
That Combs supplied her with drugs and alcohol, had sex with her, beat her, and more specifically, forced her to engage in freak-offs. That's where she was compelled to perform sex acts with other men, including sex workers, while Combs watched, pleasured himself, even videotaped the encounters, all over a period of time in multiple locations, New York, Miami, Atlanta, Los Angeles. And then Combs would then pay for trips for Ventura, bought her lavish gifts.
Wow. Why is seeking knowledge breaks it down like this? No outcry from black men. Yep. None. Nobody's saying, oh, this is terrible and all that kind of stuff. And Red Pill, they did kind of like browse over Diddy, but that's it. They didn't say, oh, wow, this guy's a piece of crap, or anything like that. You want to know why? Because pretty much they knew. They knew. Mr. Hold in the house. Why seek knowledge in the house? Miss RV in the house. Jizzy's in the house. We got everybody, Ms. Legs for Life in the house. VM in the house. Let's keep this going, but you see what's up.
Rented her an apartment. So that's the value component of the sex trafficking. And that is what she was given in exchange. That's what makes these commercial sex acts, that she was under his employ, that she was getting things of value from him. And this statute seems like it would also apply to the allegations made by a Jane Doe in another lawsuit against Diddy, because she claims that when she was 17 years old, she was gang raped and trafficked by Sean Combs, Bad Boy President Harvey Pierre.
Wow, what a pillar of the community. Pillar.
And a third person. The allegation was that she was flown from Michigan to New York City on Combs's private jet. Remember, crossing state lines, sex trafficking. That she was plied with drugs and alcohol, and that she was sexually assaulted by Pierre and gang raped by all three people at Combs's New York recording.
Jesus Christ. Welcome to the house, Mistress Newbie. Here we go.
Studio. Then let's say Rodney Jones is also an alleged victim in this criminal case. Remember, he alleges, he's a former producer of Combs, he alleges in his suit that Combs, his son, various associates and businesses forced him into sex trafficking too. Jones alleges that Combs would touch him, grope him, his private areas, that Combs would set up a situation where actor Cuba Gooding Jr. sexually assaulted him on his yacht. But even more specific to sex trafficking, Jones alleges that Combs forced him to solicit and engage in sex with sex workers Even
wow. I mean, this is just an out and out, you know, network of abuse. This is crazy.
claims that Combs drugged him at one point, and this was all while he was being transported by Combs to New York, Florida, the Virgin Islands. And throughout the complaint, he alleges that Combs threatened him to do these things too. In terms of the commercial aspect, Jones alleges that all the while this was going on, all the while he was being assaulted in traffic, Combs was promising him things of value, money, Grammy Awards, access to future projects.
And see, okay, so what does Diddy have to do with Ernesto? Is there's the problem is they always think they're innocent, or they say they're innocent. We should say, because who knows what they're thinking. But the problem is that they both, there's so many different sources of crimes from different locations in different times, and it's not tied to just one person, that it's almost going to be impossible for him to get out of this, because there's just too much to spread out. It's just, before you could say, well, it came from one person and they're making it all up. 50 people, 20 people, 15 people cannot make up, different, they're not all going to make it up. Oh, he's got money, he's got value. No, sorry, that's not going to work.
A multi-million-dollar home, threatening to not pay him. Now, before I go any further, let me just say one little caveat here. These are all allegations in civil lawsuits, okay? The burden of proof is lower in a civil case than in a criminal case, okay? So
right. Bridget says she could have called family member to get her away from Diddy. She enjoyed the luxuries, though. Well, that's a good point, sort of, but not really. And I'll tell you why. Somebody as powerful as Diddy probably owned her, all of her circles of friends. What narcissists do and sociopaths do and what psychopaths do is they separate you from your support system. So not necessarily did the support system had to be family members or anybody, but whoever was going to get her out. And unfortunately, he has the kind of money and the kind of influence and power to nullify that support system. And so she was being treated luxury. Yeah, the luxuries were there, but basically she probably thought in her own mind, through his threats and through his brainwashing, she had no way out anyway.
these are civil allegations. However, you can have events that overlap. You can have events that can subject you to both civil and criminal liability. So what
a lot of people don't think. See, that's the problem that happened to a lot of criminals and crime and ill doers is they don't realize that through their trying to attack people, or they think they're just doing something that they can only be sued for, and then realize later, for example, like Ernesto did, that shit, they can put me in the pen. And they don't find that shit out until later, or realize it or acknowledge it until it's too late.
He is alleging here are, in essence, criminal acts. It'll be up to prosecutors to see if the evidence is sufficient to warrant charges. But again, we are surmising what potential charges Diddy could face. Now, let me also say this. I just laid out examples from these lawsuits that could constitute sex trafficking, but we don't know who else prosecutors may be speaking to, or who else could be potential victims that experience similar alleged treatment. But
I mean, I'm telling you, over the years, I bet there's going to be a jaw-dropping moment where they tell us it's like in the hundreds. I kid you not. I guarantee you the numbers will rival that of Weinstein or whatever. Not, well, Weinstein did some shit too, but the male trafficker dude. I mean, over the years, it's got to be like that. I guarantee you he at least has done these freak offs and all this kind of stuff at least 20 times a year, right? 20 times a year over 20 years, that's 400 times. 400 times the amount of people he did it to, you know, in each event. Oh man, we're talking hundreds, maybe even into the thousands. Maybe even the thousands. Let me keep it going.
You're
Here we go.
talking potentially multiple counts of sex trafficking, or maybe even one large count that includes multiple victims. And it is also my understanding that there is no statute of limitations on federal sex trafficking. Now, keeping all this in mind,
Wow, he's in trouble. He's in deep trouble. I thought he was going to be able to get. I didn't even know that. I thought there were some limitations. He's dust.
I want to bring up some other potential criminal statutes as we talk about sex workers specifically. So there is 18 USC 2421A. Combs could be charged with this if he knowingly transported someone across state lines for the purposes of prostitution or illegal sex acts. My understanding that carries a punishment of up to 10 years in prison. You couple that with 18 USC 2422B, if Combs knowingly persuaded, induced, enticed, or coerced someone across state lines for the purposes of prostitution or illegal sex acts, my understanding is that it could be up to 20 years in prison. I say all of this because if it is true that he had prostitutes at these parties and in his orbit, look, I don't know how they got there, where they were transported from, or how, but this is something that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about illegal sex work. But going back for a second, I was talking.
Wow, that's a lot. That is so much right there. That's too much. Here we go.
Talking about sex trafficking of adults for the most part. But also taking the allegations in Jones's suit as true, it is possible Diddy could be brought up on sex trafficking charges with respect to minors as well. Now, I already mentioned 18 USC 1591, but there's also 18 USC 2251, sexual exploitation of a child. Combs could be brought up on this charge if he employed, used, persuaded, induced, enticed, or coerced a minor to engage in any sexually explicit conduct that was filmed and broadcast.
And you know he did because they all do. I mean, half the women that were we know he did. All those artists that work for him, the younger ones, some of them who disappeared, now you know why.
And I bring this up is there are already allegations that Diddy filmed sexual encounters and had cameras in his home that filmed everything that was going on. And Jones alleges that Diddy had parties with sex workers and minors. So now you're talking about potentially 15 to 30 years in prison. That's my understanding of that. There is also
R. Kelly. Move over.
18 USC section 2422B, which makes it a crime to induce or attempt to induce a minor to engage in prostitution or illegal sex acts, like having sex with an adult. My understanding that is up to 10 years in prison. And then you have to bring up another statute. Again, taking these allegations as true that Combs used threats of violence and actual violence to get people to do stuff for him. I mean, Cassandra Ventura says he savagely beat her. Jones says he was threatened both directly and indirectly by Combs. I mean, he says Combs alleged to eat his face and that he would kill his own mother to get what he wanted. So you have to call out 18 USC 1589. That makes forced labor a crime. Getting someone to work for you through force, threats, physical restraint, that carries, my understanding, up to 20 years in prison. So when we hear,
I mean, this is stacking up. I'm interested to see if he's going to add these all up and see where we're at.
About these allegations about the power and influence of Diddy, his wealth, his team, his associates, this untouchable aspect, that is what is key here. Now, let's also talk about racketeering. This is another potential crime that prosecutors may be thinking about. And it was referenced in the Jones suit. I think it could apply if we think the worst. Take these allegations as true. So racketeering, or RICO, it's about organized crime, a criminal enterprise or organization, and it spans several different sections of the federal criminal code. 18 USC 1961 defines racketeering.
Damn. Let's put it this way, folks. Diddy was doing way too much. I wanted to at least touch on this weekend, and we are going to keep track of this to see if Diddy is a Dusty. Right now, I want to find out in the chat if you think Diddy is going to get caught. Put a 1 if you think he's going to do criminal time. Put a 2 if you think he's not going to do criminal time. I mean, prison time. I'll wait for you while you do that. Meanwhile, let me bring this up. Yeah, I think he's in big trouble. I mean, if you measure him on the same situation and level as R. Kelly, I can't see how he can out of stay out of prison. I can't. I really cannot say that. I mean, there's just no way that I see Diddy getting out of this. He could get out of literally 2/3 of these charges and still do, significant time in prison. And the damage that I believe it did to the community. The thing is that there's two sides of the story. There's why are they so hard on this brother? And then the other side is, well, look what he did to the community. See, this is the thing that a lot of people may not measure. When somebody does this to our community, okay, this kind of damage to our community, it throws a lot more weight than this if something like this was done to, let's say, a non-Black community. Because the non-Black community is more fortified, is more resilient because they have the type of structure financially in place and the system in place. We are not privy to that kind of luck. So if Diddy is the black the black Goldstein Weinstein, I forgot his name, who caused all this horrible. If he did the same thing, he's doing more damage to the Black community than those guys who were Caucasian who did what they did to the Caucasian or white community. It's much more amplified because Weinstein, okay, we have we are just simply not going to be as resilient. We don't have the funding. We don't have the repair, the amount of repair to repair these broken people that get broken by these individuals. They were in the young ladies in our community are less protected as it is, and it just goes to show you that you can't really this is what happens when you try to support somebody who doesn't need to be supported. There were too many people. There were probably hundreds of men who knew about Diddy and his nastiness, and they said nothing until now. Weak men always say things too late. That's my saying. Yeah, R. Kelly stayed out for years. I'm thinking it might be some time because he's connected. Yep. Why Seeking Knowledge breaks it down once again. These high value, low moral dusties deserve everything they get. Bars. This is sad. And even worse, that the Dusty Sphere, perfect name, won't address these issues and appear to be more than a crying page. Yep. In fact, they're amplifying the issues because they're not taking on these criminals. but they are attacking the women that are victims of these criminals. That's what's sad. Anyway, folks, this is DJ Torch. We'll catch you on the next one. Here we go. Shout out to everybody in the house. Mr. Snoopy, Why Seeking Knowledge, Lex for Life, Bridget Mouton, BM, Mr. Hole,
say what's wrong or right.
Miss RV,
It's not hard to fool me.
Izzy B,
Cause I'm addicted to the good life.